What's up, Bills Mafia? I'm Fernando Schmude. This is your leading the charge, and today I have the pleasure of having Papa Ronnie Eastham, with me from the Mafia Cast. Ronnie, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Like I said, we've been trying to do this for a minute, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Finally, we've been able to connect and to produce some content together, right? We've
Yeah.
been doing so via Buffalo Rumblings, but separately, right? And now finally being able to join each other and to talk some bills, always fun and awesome to have you on the show. So today, Bills Mafia, our idea is to talk about the our main candidates, the guys that we really expect to step up and help the Bills to take the next step going forward next season. So I've actually wrote about it at Buffalo Rumblings. But today, myself and Ronnie, we're going to talk about an overall list. The guys that we really, no matter if on defense or offense, the guys that we really expect to have the biggest impact in this Bills team if they are able to take their games to the next level, right? So feel free to give your opinions on in the YouTube comment section as well, and to let us know your choices. And I'm really curious to check your list, Ronnie, to see how it compares to mine. All right, I have two different ones with offense and defense. I was before this show trying to put it together and to see which guys would be more important, no matter the side of the ball. So it's gonna be fun to talk about it. To start this discussion, what are your expectations for the Bills this season? A lot of people believing the Bills will take a step, maybe a step backwards before going forward. I really don't believe so. I think we struggle sometimes to measure regression with veterans. Sometimes we sometimes take for granted that the guy will continue to be the same guy that we saw last season or the seasons before that, and it's
hmm
not always true, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the main things that we keep hearing, and we've been hearing all off season, is the change in the roster churn, turnover, whatever you want to call it. I I don't know personally that the changes are going to affect the team as much as people believe that it will. One of the names that a lot of people, media included, like to bring up is the loss of Tre'Davious White.
Mm.
We really haven't had White in 2 years. We had him for a
Yeah.
few games last year, then that was it. I love Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. They're not the same players. They were not the same players last season that we've seen in the past, and the Bills survived. I think for me personally, the one area that I am a little concerned with is the offensive line because of the changes there. I
Mhm.
have no idea what to expect from Connor McGovern at center.
Mm. Fair enough. Fair enough. The thing with the offensive line, maybe it's just me personally. I really trust Cromer,
Yeah,
and it seems this move hasn't been something done out of a necessity, like from all the interviews and all the conversations, and even seeing Conor McGovern so excited about moving to center because he seems really excited to take advantage of this
yeah,
opportunity, right? Uh, so it seems it's something that they were already thinking about, already practicing a little bit with McGovern last season, and it seems they are confident it can work well. So maybe I trust Cromer more than others, or I'm overly positive about that, But I'm curious to see McGovern there, and we know that Edwards is a guy that Cromer has total confidence in, right? He
yeah.
probably the guy that was responsible for bringing Edwards to the team, and we saw him last season in a totally different role, coming in as kind of big tight end to help in the run blocking and extra blocker, right, in the offensive line. But now taking over as left guard, it's a totally different responsibility, right?
It is, and with David Edwards, I mean, you look at, I don't know what your opinion is on PFF grades or whatever. A lot of people don't like him. when it comes to offensive linemen, though, we don't have really a whole lot to measure these guys off of, right? So we
Mm,
kind of depend on analytics from guys like or from sites like PFF. But um, Edwards was actually the highest graded offensive lineman at Pro Football Focus last season.
mm,
However, majority of his snaps were outside tight end, outside away from the guard position. Now he's moving inside to the guard position, where he'll be almost exclusively. Depending, of course, on the development of Cedric Van Pran Granger. If he
mm.
outplays McGovern, McGovern moves back to guard, and the only change then is at center, which is a significant change. It's a big change to go from a veteran like Mitch Morris to a rookie like Van Pran Granger. It's really difficult to say.
Yeah.
um, so, yeah, and even honestly, when it came to Mitch Morris, I liked him as an offensive line. I liked him as a player and everything, but he just didn't feel like for the money and what was expected of him, he just wasn't dominant like you would want from your center. So when they kind of let him go, I really wasn't. I don't want to say sad necessarily because I try not to get too emotionally attached to players, even on my own team because we know they change and they move on. But um, but yeah, if we go into the season with two new starters at those two positions, the guard and the center, it's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line works out. The beautiful thing of it all, though, we got Josh Allen. He can cover up a lot of any of those mistakes and errors. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Man, I keep positioning myself like this way because I still can don't know what to do with this, you know. So, so not being too attached to players hard sometimes, right? But I keep positioning myself like this so I can save my my picture there, so I can keep it
Hey,
there. Because,
I've got a poster sitting right here on the floor next to me with the same thing. It's Diggs and Allen. It used to
yeah,
be over here behind me, but yeah, it has since come down. I've got a Stephon Diggs signed jersey over here that's in a frame. It's still laying on the
yeah,
ground. I haven't put it up. It'll still go up.
yeah,
I
sure.
love what Stephon Diggs did for the Bills, and he was an integral part of the development of Josh Allen. Right? Was he the only part of the ascension of Allen? No, absolutely not. But I'm also not one of those that really, yeah, it was a little, I guess, hurtful maybe how things ended with Diggs. But I'm also not going to be like, oh, burn the jersey. I'm done with this guy.
Yeah,
This and that.
yeah, yeah.
I do hope he fails in Houston, though. I will say that because it's an
True,
AFC team.
true, true. And especially because, man, I can't lie as well. Like, I won't deny that Diggs is a legendary player already for the Bills. I think we can put him up there with the best wide receivers in the history of the franchise. The
Mm-hmm.
production is there. We saw it. It's not just empty numbers. We saw the production on the field. Even the importance of Josh Allen's development. People keeps discussing, oh, was it Diggs helping Allen, Allen helping Diggs? It's both. You
Yeah.
can't separate things, right? With that said, yes, I'm a little bit petty, and and man, when I look at Diggs' situation, the guy had it all. You know, he was the number one guy. He had the contract. He had the quarterback. He had it all. So even having it all, expecting and doing what he did and wanting out, so I can't help myself of being petty. And recently, I even tweeted about the Mount Rushmore of Bills wide receivers, and I have him out of it because of his attitude. You know, like no, give me Andre, give me Eric Moulds, who's in my opinion is the best of all. I have
Mm-hmm.
this. I will die on this hill. You know that he didn't have prime Jim Kelly throwing him the ball his entire career. Otherwise, he could match Andre or even be better than that. So I'm a big Eric Moulds guy. So give me Moulds, give me Andre, give me Lee Evans, who was a an example of a true Bill, right? And as well, and give me Stevie. And I went even further, and I tweeted like, give me Sammy, because when a guy gets injured so many times, it's not on him. It's bad luck of getting injured so many times. I know he had some attitude problems, but the talent was there, and when healthy, he was awesome as well, right? So yeah, I have this problem with Diggs, but I can't deny he was awesome. So for the Bills, a big legendary player. So you have this. I
Yeah.
have a Bills Diggs jersey, right? And you have this signing one. I think we can hang it up and proudly and enjoy
Yeah,
what the guy did for the Bills, right? Yeah, but
absolutely.
about the offensive line, Ronnie, I think one great thing that I feel comfortable about is when we compare this offensive line maybe to 1, 2, even 3 years ago, we struggled with depth, right? And
Hmm.
that was the reason we finally found Ryan Bates, right? Because he was like the last option they tried and finally found him, right? But I remember like being extremely worried about the offensive line when John Feliciano was starting because he seemed like a big hole there. And the funny thing
Hmm.
is that he just started the Super Bowl, right, for the 49ers. And even a year ago or 2 years ago with Spencer Brown being an issue as well. And it seems like Spencer Brown finally figured out a way of being a decent right tackle, a solid one at least, right? And he has all the athletic ability in the world. But now those changes inside and the questions about McGovern, I'm positive, but hopeful, but I understand totally this the being worried about it. So is it fair to say that McGovern is one of the guys on your list that must step up?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, he's definitely on my list. He was the second name I wrote down actually,
Okay.
because if he can play that position and play it well, then the Bills' offense I think will be just as good as we've ever seen, with or without Diggs. The depth. I Casey and I on our show, the Mafia Cast, have talked about this multiple times. Was Diggs the best receiver on this roster? Yes. Is this current receiver room better top to bottom than we've had? Yes. I think when you look at the top guy and the fifth guy, overall they're more talented. I think there's more potential there, especially
Hmm.
when you add in the potential of Keon Coleman, what Curtis Samuel can do in this offense. Now, being reunited with Joe Brady. What are we going to get from Khalil Shakir? I don't know if you know this about me. I live in the Boise area, so
Oh,
I
awesome.
watched Shakir's collegiate career here at Boise State.
Mhm.
I've watched every one of his games. Tell you what, when they drafted him, there's nothing more exciting than when somebody from your favorite college team gets drafted to your favorite
Awesome.
NFL team, right?
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
you pull for him, you root for him. And I was saying from the moment he was drafted, this kid's got to get in the game. I know what he's capable of. So I'm super excited to see what he does in year three, as in my opinion, one of the more integral parts of this what we're going to get from the passing game. But
No doubt.
yeah, none of those guys that I mentioned though are on my list.
Got it. So let's start five from first, right? From fifth to first, so we can discuss those guys on our list. McGovern, you said he's your second. He was in my offensive list. He's in the offensive list as the fourth guy, but he isn't in this overall list. In my overall list, he's in there. I'm really trusting a lot his excitement of being back at center, even being a long time. I don't know. I have a good feeling with him there. So he isn't in this in my overall list. But let's start fifth from fifth to first now. And who's your fifth guy in the list then?
So this might be a little bit of a surprise to some people, maybe not. I don't know, but I got Tyler Bass in there. Uh,
Okay.
because you look at what happened last season. I don't want to say he cost us the game against the Chiefs, but he was obviously a part of it, right?
Hmm.
That game goes into likely overtime if he hits that, and who knows what happens after that. But we cannot go into a full season with a kicker who is on shaky ground, right? He's got to
Hmm.
be able to go in there. We've got to be able to count on him because AFC is going to be tough. It's going to be tougher than it was last season because you've got Joe Burrow's coming back from his injury, so the Bengals should be right there in the mix. Houston with Stroud, second year in the league, they're only should be they would think they would be better. They've got Diggs in there now.
Hmm.
I'm You look at even the Raiders, they've got some pieces. The Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs. I mean, the AFC is absolutely loaded. Aaron
Hmm.
Rodgers.
Yeah, we never know.
I'm Yeah, I'm kind of a little more down on the Jets. I mean, maybe that's biased, but I try really hard when I'm doing content to not
Uh,
let biases get in the way. But the guy's 40 years old and he hasn't really been that impressive in like 3 years now, 2 or 3 years. So what are we going to get from them? Robert Saleh hasn't done much of anything as far as I'm concerned. Like, what has he done to deserve to continue coaching? I've even heard some people say that this might be his last year if the Jets don't get it together.
Mm.
So, but back to the point, Tyler Bass has got to get back to the point where 2 years ago when he came onto the field, I was like, oh, this is automatic. He's got this, especially from 50 yards. We didn't doubt him at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year when he's walking on the field in that Chiefs game in the playoffs, I looked at my wife like, he's going to miss this. I just had that feeling, and sure enough, maybe I
Mm-hmm.
jinxed him. I don't know.
Maybe
But
it's your fault, Ronnie. My
yeah,
goodness.
maybe
Why did you
I'll
do
take
that,
that.
man?
But
Yeah, man.
yeah, he needs to step up and get back to the Tyler Bass of his first couple of years.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And I don't have him on my list, but it's my fault because I just looked at my both lists from offense and defense, so I kind of forgot special teams there when analyzing it. And yes, Bass got it figured out. And just like you said, the thing with Bass is since his rookie season, we could see the swag, right? The confidence, right? He always
Yeah,
always was a swaggy guy, like probably one of the swaggiest kickers in the league coming out. And then when you have a kicker losing the confidence, man, it's more mental than physical. There kicking, being out there kicking the ball. It's more a mental
yeah.
game than physical. So yeah, that's a
Which
big time question.
I just
Please.
want to add too with that. I think it's interesting. I've never been a kicker, never tried. Well, I have tried. I mean, I made it like a 20-yard field goal. It's the best I've ever done. But
Okay.
but there was a lot made about his missed field goals during minicamp.
Hmm.
What people don't realize is during OTAs he was perfect, 7 for 7. He had a
Hmm.
different holder though. He had the rookie, the UDFA punter, Jake Browning, I believe it is.
Hmm. Yeah.
He was holding in mini camps. It was oh my gosh,
Martin.
Martin. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I bring up the fact that I've never been a kicker, never done it in any kind of pressure situation, and it's interesting to me that your holder can potentially affect your mental aspect of kicking so much that it seems to be an issue.
Mhm.
And because of that, I don't think Sam Martin's going to make this roster this year.
Yeah,
Um,
and yeah, because if one hand you can't really, oh, your kicker only can kick with one holder. That was why they brought back Matt Hack.
yeah,
But
yeah,
now if he's making kicks with the rookie as well, so you start to come on, you start to look at the holder, right? Because maybe Martin is doing something wrong there.
yeah,
So yeah, that's something to keep an eye on during the preseason and the training camp, and especially if Browning can impress punting the ball, because we remember the Bills tried to with Matariza like a year ago to add a strong leg, a strong kick, a strong leg punter to punt this ball in Buffalo, and now Browning seems in the same modes, right? So it's possible that he can win this job against Martin, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, my fifth, and even about the teams, and when you said about the bias regarding Rodgers and the Jets, I think all of us we have our personal opinions, and for example, my opinion is not being trying to be smarter than anybody else, but I have a feeling with the Houston Texans, like they gotta prove themselves more. I feel like people are trying to crown them too much. Yeah, on paper it
Yeah.
looks great, but football isn't on paper, right? Remember the Dream Team Eagles team? Man,
Yep,
they
yep,
had they had it all on paper, right? And it didn't
yeah,
work out. So I have some questions. Stroud entering the second year, they were up and coming with a rookie coach, a rookie quarterback, a lot of young pieces. Now they have some veterans joining, former star players that will want, for example, Diggs. Do you think Diggs will be fine, like in a contract year, being the third wide receiver, maybe in the pecking order with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, right?
Tank Dell. Yeah.
I don't think he will be fine being the third one in the target share. So
Well, and they got
there are a
Dalton
lot of
Schultz too.
things.
Yeah, they got
Sorry?
Dalton Schultz, Robert
Yeah,
Woods.
yeah.
So there's some options. It's funny you brought up the Texans because I kind of a little bit in some ways look at the Bills receiving core compared to what people were saying about the Texans receiving core a year ago because before I started writing for Buffalo Lowdown, I was
Hmm.
writing. Well, I was managing site for the Texans on
Yeah,
Fansided.
got it.
So I did a lot of writing for them, doing a lot of research, and I wrote a piece last summer. Don't sleep on this Texans wide receiver
Hmm.
core
Hmm.
because Nico Collins, he's a good receiver. He's a big target. He had some injuries the year before, I believe. Stroud was looking good in OTAs, training camp, mini camp, and all of that. And I think it was Pro Football Focus, might have been Bleacher Report. I can't remember who, but one of these media outlets ranked the Texans receiver group dead last in the league
Hmm.
heading into the season, and I pushed back on that. And I
Yeah,
kind of see that same thing happening with the Bills, and I've even seen the Bills receiving group ranked extremely low
yeah,
uh, coming in. So, and we've got Josh Allen. I
true,
mean,
true.
you look at Cole Beasley, Diggs, and John Brown. All three of those
John
guys had
Brown.
career years with Allen as their
Man,
quarterback.
Robert Foster was a
Yeah,
thing with Josh, right?
yeah.
He was a dangerous guy with Josh. So yeah, and we have the talent there. So I'm really excited to see those guys out there competing and I think, for example, it's totally fair to expect Shakir to have a great season. We saw it.
Mhm.
We saw the production last season. He has great numbers, like for allow drop percentage, and he gets open. He has nice chemistry with Josh. So I think it's totally fair to expect him to have another jump this season, and then Curtis Samuel, a guy
Yeah.
that is a savvy veteran, a guy that Brady already was able to take advantage of and make producing in without having Josh, having Teddy Bridgewater and other quarterbacks throwing him the ball. So they have some interesting guys there to make it work. So, Bills Mafia, hit that like button, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel. I need your support. And going forward, so my fifth guy, I talk and didn't reveal my fifth guy. My fifth guy is James Cook. James Cook is my fifth guy in this list. All right, the running back. I feel like he took a step forward next season, established himself as a viable number one running back, a very good all-purpose running back. But I feel like he still has the potential to take another step forward. Like if he improves his pass blocking, if he improves his hands, his consistency with his hands. We had some bad news about the mini camp already, some drops, right? But if
Yeah.
he can be more consistent with that, and if he can pass block to stay on the field on 2 minute drills, we had Latavius Murray on the field way too much on 2 minute drills last season. He can have another jump. He can establish himself maybe as one of the top running backs in the league with the way Joe Brady is willing to run the ball. The Bills have been able to run the ball well, and then with the way he can contribute in the passing game, I feel like the sky's the limit for James Cook. And we could see last season like he literally left on the field like 4 or 5 touchdowns that he dropped like inside the end zone
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
entering the end zone, right? So that's a guy that can elevate this offense to a whole another level if he can really put it all together, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. He finished in the top 10 in catch rate among running backs last season. Yet, as Bills fans, we saw the wide open touchdowns that he was
Yeah.
dropping. And it does concern me a little bit that that seems to be continuing through practices.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see if he can get rid of that, if he can fix that in training camp and preseason. Because if he doesn't, Ray Davis is going to take over as a third down back, and I think Cook becomes more of a first and second down guy, and then we'll
Mhm.
see Ray Davis in the third down situations because he's looked really really good in the passing game. Davis
Mhm.
has so far. Granted, it's no pads; they're all in their shorts and t-shirts, so
Mhm.
training camp will get a little bit better look and a little better idea of these guys. But yeah, I think if Cook can fix that part of his game, yeah, the sky is definitely limit. And I've said this so many times. I'm not a big fan of situational football. I don't like having a third down back. I don't like having a
Mhm.
power back. I
Mhm.
want one guy that can do it all because that makes your offense more unpredictable, more versatile. Because it's not like, oh, Ray Davis is in the game, they're throwing the ball.
Yeah,
So I would like to see Cook step up and get that figured out, and yeah, we'll see what he can do. I mean, he was what, fourth in the league in rushing, so
yeah, already pretty good, right? Pro Bowl
yeah,
season, and he's already very good. But imagine if he can stay on the field even more, right? Third downs and those important situations. Yeah, I'm definitely hoping he can put it all together. And even when you said about Ray Davis, even Curtis Samuel is a guy that has more experience
yeah,
than Diggs when lining up in the backfield. We saw they trying to get some touches to Diggs last season, lining him up in the backfield. He even run the ball against the Chiefs. He had a one run attempt as a running back, like, and Curtis Samuel has plenty of experience doing so. So he's another guy that can catch out of the backfield if needed, but it
yeah.
would be way better if you can simply line up James Cook there and the defense doesn't know what's gonna happen next in the next series, right? Number four, Papa, please let's go forward.
So number four, I kind of went back and forth between a few different names, all of them in the secondary. I want to see Taylor Rapp take a step. Uh,
Mhm.
he he was counted on last year to play a different role that wasn't a true safety, right? He was more
Mhm.
of a hybrid linebacker safety, if you will. So the Bills are going to need somebody in that safety duo, whoever it's going to be. And this is why I kind of went back and forth on different names. Whether it's
Mhm.
Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, whoever it is that steps up and can be that leader, that playmaker like we had with Micah Hyde and Poyer is going to be huge. The
Mhm.
one the one thing that gives me hope is McDermott and this staff seem to do really, really well developing secondary guys. I mean, look
Mhm.
at Christian Benford. Kyrie Elam's kind of the outlier, right? He's the one that really the only one that's come in here and struggled. But they've got guys like Levi Wallace that have come in here and played really, really well.
Even Dane Jackson, right? If we
Dane
consider
Jackson,
what he has, the tools he has, he made the most of those
yeah,
tools, right?
yeah. So yeah, I think if Rapp can step up and be that more of that Poyer and Hyde type guy, no, that'll be huge, especially for somebody like Cole Bishop, right? If he can get in there, if he can earn that starting job, and he's got somebody playing well next to him like Taylor Rapp, that can
Mhm.
help him along in that development of him, that'll be huge.
Yeah, man. Even McDermott has praised Rap's leadership recently, right? And I saw also the Rasul Douglas interview where he praised Micah and Poyer when explaining how he succeeded so fast in the Bills defense without knowing it, right? And he was
Yeah,
like, "How I just listened to what Micah and Jordan had to say, and it worked, right?" So we need this guy to that knows the defense, and looking at the safeties, Rep has the advantage there over Edwards and Bishop of being there
mm-hmm.
for longer, right? Even it's only just a year, but Taylor Rapp has plenty of experience. He won a Super Bowl playing as a starter for the Rams, so it seems he is stepping up as this leader of the safety group and defensive backfield and communication department. Being able to be this guy will be really important for this defense if he can do that, right? Yeah. My fourth guy is another guy that, just like James Cook, I think he's already pretty good, already a solid guy, but man, if he can step up and take the next step, it would help the Bills immensely. This guy is Greg Rousseau, right? Greg Rousseau is, in my opinion, or best bet and at one guy in this roster being able to become a dominant pass rusher and a
Yeah,
dominant all-around defensive end, right? I think he's pretty dominant against the run already,
yeah,
but for some reason, maybe those lower body injuries, he's playing through it, right ankle, foot injuries, sometimes maybe slowing him down in the pass rush department. I would really like to see him being able to become that dominant force at the edge position because it would unlock the defense side of the ball. I think our defense can be and will be pretty good. I still confident this defense will be pretty good
yeah,
with the pieces it has. But if Rousseau can elevate his level, he can be a game changer, right? And the Bills need it. The Bills need this guy that wins one-on-ones, that wins when we don't blitz, right? Especially when it mattered the most against the Chiefs of the world, against the Bengals of the world in the
Yeah.
playoffs. A guy that can beat the offensive tackles and get to the quarterback and make those game-changing plays. And I feel like Rousseau is the best bet, the most likely guy able to elevate his game to this level due to his combination of age, quality level, physical level, right? So that's the guy that I really have the biggest hope that he can step up and help the team. And he's lower on the list because I feel like he already delivers a lot for us, right? He's already our best defensive end, our most dependable one. So he's my fourth guy. Anything to talk about Russo, or
Well,
let's move on?
yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned Russo because he's my number three.
Oh, awesome! So
Yeah. So it kind
perfect
of
guy.
rolls right in.
Yeah,
Rolls right along.
yeah.
I'm with you. I put him a little bit higher only because if he can get to that double digit sack level, I think that's going to help open up things for the rest of the defensive line. I'm confident that maybe Von Miller will be. I mean, he can't be much worse than what he was last year, right?
Yeah,
So
true, true.
uh, I'm not expecting double digit sacks from a guy like Von Miller, but I do expect to see a little bit more pressure at least.
Hmm.
So the sacks I think need to come from Rousseau. You're right as far as the run defense. I believe Pro Football Focus had him ranked 11th in run defense grade, somewhere around there amongst defensive ends, which is pretty impressive. Right,
Hmm.
and he's always been the last couple of years really good at stopping the run and setting the edge and and whatnot. I think he's had at least 5 sacks each of his 3 years though. So we've seen what he could potentially become. He needs to take that next step and become that
Hmm.
guy, that all around. I don't want to say a Bruce Smith type because that's unfair.
Yeah, true.
but Smith was, I mean, he was phenomenal against the run. He was phenomenal. I mean, just all around fantastic player. That's where we need Rousseau to get just an all around great player. He doesn't need to be Bruce Smith, obviously, but just take that next step and elevate the pass rush. And I think he's going to be. I think he could be an all pro guy. I do.
Yeah, man, and yeah, if he's the guy that I when he got drafted, I kind of here to Brazilian audience especially, I made a comparison like he's mini Mario, mini Mario Williams, and,
Yeah.
and it's difficult to call Rousseau mini something because the guy is huge, right? But when talking about
Yeah, he's
Super
massive.
Mario, it's also he was also massive. So, but if he can, and even becoming a Mario Williams, it's man, Mario was awesome when playing at his best. So it's
Yeah.
not an easy task. But if Rousseau can be in fact a mini Mario Williams, we would be happy, right? Because the guy was awesome and dominant, and if he can be that dominant for stretches as a pass rusher, he definitely would help our defense to take the next step, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Especially with Daquan Jones coming back and Ed
yeah,
Oliver. If those two can stay healthy together all year long, I mean, the interior of that defensive line is going to be stout as well. So if we can get one of
true.
these edge guys to take that next step, that front four would be massive.
True, true, no doubt. Yeah, man, my third guy, and the difference in our list is because I forgot Tyler Bass, right?
So
Otherwise, it would
far,
be
yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Well, but my third guy is AJ Peneza, all right,
Okay.
and he's higher on my list compared to Rousseau because I believe Rousseau is already a better player than AJ Peneza. I feel like Peneza has been a nice piece as a depth guy, as a rotational piece, a guy that man, it's so difficult, and I'm not out there saying anything negative to AJ. Like when I say he isn't a true starter or he hasn't been a true starter so far, it's not all up to him. The Bills drafted a guy and decided to completely change his body, completely change his style of play. So it's very difficult for a player to do so,
Hmm.
and so AJ being able to do that, to be able to transform his body, to change his style. Like when I saw his tape as a college player, he was a big defensive end, a strong guy, a guy that could even kick inside if in some passing
Yeah.
downs. And then now he's more like a true edge, a lighter guy, a speed rusher, a technician, right? So all props in the world to AJ Peneza for being able to do so and for becoming this third down guy, this pass rush specialist. But recently, McDermott kind of let it slip. I don't know if it's any secret, but he was like when asked about if he wanted more from or if he expected more from Russo for next season, and he said, "Yeah, I expect more from Russo and AJ now as a starter." So for a guy like myself who expected Von Miller to still recover and be a starter, like I was surprised of hearing McDermott like name his starters already at defensive end.
Yeah.
And so AJ being the starter now, he got to step up. He got to be more stout against the run. He got to be able to to defend those edges and still impact the game as a pass rusher, right? We know they rotate a lot, but if AJ Peneza can take this step forward and become an all-around defensive end, an every down defensive end, it would be great for this defense. It would also elevate. It would even make Rousseau's life easier, right? Because where are you going
Yeah.
to send your double teams, right? So with the guys you mentioned inside, Oliver, Jones, so AJ taking this next step and proving he can be a true starter is huge for this Bills defense.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to Epinesa, the one thing that I've been saying all off season with him is he's been in like the Gabe Davis of the defense. He has a game where you're like, oh, there he is. Holy crap. He's got a
Yeah,
touchdown,
yeah,
a fumble sack. I mean, he's just all over the place. And then you don't see him for 2 or 3 weeks.
true.
And I don't know if maybe that's just because he has trouble getting into the rhythm of the game because of the rotation, which I am not a fan of. We always hear about, McDermott's talking about your best 11, right? Well,
Mhm.
why do you keep taking your best 11 off the field on the defensive line? But that's another story.
Yeah,
uh, so that's my thing. I just want to see more consistency from Epinesa. The splash plays that he makes here and there are fantastic, but I want to see more consistency from week to week. I would even be fine with less splash plays. Just be solid every game. If you can just do
Mhm.
that, go in there, make a play or two, set the edge, uh, get a sack here and there. I don't need to see these crazy interceptions and rumbles for a touchdown and stuff. That's great. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
I need to see more on a week to week basis from him. So I totally can see why you would put him higher on the list ahead of Rousseau because I think there is something there with Epinesa, and if the Bills can just unlock that, and yeah, to your point, it is interesting what McDermott said about him and Rousseau being as the starters. It does kind of make you wonder if maybe they're going to have Miller on kind of a snap count, maybe, or if
Mhm.
it's just a situational type of thing where it's third down, they're going to be passing it. Let's throw Miller out there. I could see that becoming a thing, and if that's how it is, it'll be interesting to see what Rousseau and Epinesa can do together.
True, 100%, man. And about the rotation, yeah, we've heard. Even I think it was Von Miller talking about how you play games against the offensive tackle, setting up some moves, and I'm going
Yeah,
speed rush, speed rush, speed rush, and then when he really believes I'm going around the corner, I swim inside and right make him pay. And man, with all this rotation, when Epenez is back on the field, the offensive tackle don't even remember what he did the last time
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Like it's difficult. Also, it's a part that if the guys are fresher and more well rested for more snaps, like in the rotation, it's difficult to play this kind of games against the offensive tackle and to make him believe you're going to do one thing and then do another, right? Surprise him
yeah,
with
yeah.
different moves. So yeah, it's definitely a downside of not of rotating too much the edge rushers, especially, right? All right, so we're going near the top of our list, right? So number two on the list now.
Yeah, we've already kind of talked about him with Connor McGovern. He's got to be the
Okay.
guy. He needs to
Yeah.
be the center, step up, and not be a liability. I'm not saying he needs to go out here and be, the next great thing at the center position or anything like that, but just don't be a liability. Hold your
Yeah.
ground. don't the bad snaps and stuff like that. Let's avoid that and just be solid. And I think if he can, like I said, if he can do that, we all love watching Josh Allen run around, right? It's fun. It's exciting to
Mhm,
see him do his thing. But there's going to be a point in his career where he can't do that anymore or do it as well, and he's going to need that protection to because the arm I think will be fine for years. The legs, the speed, the power, that's going to go first.
mhm,
So
mhm,
uh, if McGovern can be that guy in the middle of this offensive line and solidify that position, this is a really young offensive line.
mhm,
Uh, Dawkins is the elder statesman of the bunch. I believe he's 29. Everybody else is like 26 and younger.
mhm.
Osiris Torrance going into I think 22 maybe. And speaking of Torrance, I just want to say he's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2024. I think this is the year he dominates at that position. He was second in the league last year, and I know we're going off track, but I love Torrance. He was
Fair
second in the
enough.
league last year in snaps, which is unheard of for a rookie to go in
Mhm.
and play that much and still be good. And we did see a little bit of a decline late in the season. He did struggle a little bit, but even still, I love the guy, and I think he's going to be a dominant force, and I expect to see him in the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, man, he was an awesome pick, and through that, anytime I saw him on the field playing this last season, I couldn't help myself of thinking like this is a guy to be a 10-year starter for the Bills, and we
Yeah,
don't need to worry about this position anymore.
absolutely.
Like he just seems like this kind of guy, and I really hope he can continue trending that way because I feel like it's natural with the way he could deal as a rookie, deal with some of the stoutest defensive tackles in the league. We know that it's never easy to face like the Williams guy from the Jets, and we need to face him twice a year, and a
Yeah,
lot of other inside rushers that are tough. And Torrance has it all, man. He's a beast. I'm really excited to see his future with the Bills. And with McGovern, man, I feel like again back with what I said in the beginning. We take for granted sometimes the veterans and oh we were gonna get from Mitch Morse, for example, the same thing we had last year, but we don't know for sure. Morse isn't even that old, right? But with his
yeah,
concussion history, especially, we never know, right? So yeah, there is a risk, 100%. But I loved what I saw from McGovern last season as well. So maybe he can be the next big thing at center. We'll see,
you never
right?
know.
There is this
Yeah,
possibility, right? So it's in an interesting move, and even if it doesn't work out, I'm happy with the depth the Bills built in this group. Like Leo Collins is there, and not to play center, obviously, but he's there to. If Edwards is struggling, you have Collins, right? And then Vampire Granger is a talented rookie that might be another guy that can impress us and be another
yeah,
nice starter alongside Torrance, right, for long term. So I'm
yeah,
excited to see this group, and time will tell, right, Ronnie? Um,
yeah. I just want to throw in. I when I started watching the Bills and became a fan, which was 1988. That's right when they started to really come together. Um, and it's interesting. If you go out on YouTube, you can watch a lot of the old games. I mean, even go
mhm,
back to the 70s. So I've watched some of those, but I've started watching some of the games from 1986, which was Jim Kelly's rookie year, which also happens to be Kent Hull's rookie year, arguably the best center in Bills history.
mhm,
Uh, and it was interesting to me watching these games and listening to the commentaries talk about Kent Hull as a rookie. This offensive line might struggle, this and that. But as you watch, that line came together and it formed one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for years. And that's what I'm hoping to see from this iteration of the Bills offensive line because if your offensive line is stout, I don't care who your receivers are, you can only cover for so long. And somebody like
yeah,
Josh Allen, he's going to find that guy that's open, or he's just going to run. The offensive line is so big. It
mhm,
is. And this is what I kind of the analogy I use. Josh Allen, yes, he's the key that makes that offense go. But the offensive line is the engine.
Yeah,
If that engine is purring, you're not going to stop these guys.
true. 100%. I agree, man. And yeah, 100%. And so my number two on this list, my list is kind of, um, how could I put it? It's kind of focused on two areas of the game. You could see already a lot of pass rush, and then the offensive
Yeah.
part with James Cook, and so number two is another edge guy. Von Miller is my number two in this list because just like you said, Ronnie, it's difficult for Von to be worse than last season, right? Last season was really bad for him.
It was
We
so
get
bad.
he was trying to help coming back from an injury, but I still have hope with him, right? And when people say, "Oh, Von is done, Von is," and we can't expect anything from him, a lot of times the same people are like, the Jets will win the division because a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers can still play an MVP level, sorry, but then I feel like I'm entitled to have hope that Von Miller can be a decent pass rusher, right? And
Sure,
I
yeah.
don't I don't expect Von Miller to be a Hall of Famer guy or even the guy that he was for the Bills before the injury. But if he's close to that guy that we saw as a Bill already before the injury, man, he changes it so much because first of all, we know he's a big time name, and he if he's producing some sacks, opposing offensive coordinators, opposing offensive tackles, they will be worried when he's there, right? He will need to, man, where is Vaughn? Because he's producing, right? They will
Yeah.
pay attention to him. And if they start to pay attention to him, we know that we have other guys that can take advantage of that with Oliver, with Rousseau, with Peneza. And so I feel like Vaughn adding something. He didn't add anything last season. If he can add something as a specialist, true, save him for just third
Just
down.
get us a
Save him,
sack.
yeah, save him for the most important part. Play him so just for in the playoffs, like I don't know,
Yeah,
but if he
yeah.
can give you something, all right, that's a guy that the combination of his big time name and his experience, and again, he's a guy that he didn't forget how to pass rush, how to make his moves, the technique. He didn't forget that. He just needs to be uh, the minimum prepared physically, right? Have the minimum explosion, the minimum strength, the minimum physical part, so he can use all his knowledge and be a good pass rusher for us and help
Hmm.
us a lot. So Von Miller led my list in the defensive side, right? In my defensive article, and he's my number two in this list here.
Yeah, and I certainly can get behind that. I think when I was kind of putting this list together, I just bit my tongue. um, I thought about Von Miller. Here's the reason why I didn't put him on there because he was so bad last year that he was basically non-existent, and yet the Bills were still, I think, top five in the league in total sacks. I want to say like 54, somewhere around there, maybe.
Yeah,
And they did it without Von Miller. Um, Now, Floyd is gone. I think he was accounted for 10 and a half sacks last year, but he was non-existent over the last 5 games of the season, including the playoffs. And still, the Bills' front four was able to get some pressure until the Chiefs game, and then they got no pressure whatsoever. So I think somebody needs to step up to replace the 10 and a half from Floyd, and I think Rousseau offers the best chance of that. Now, if that comes from Rampiness or Miller, great. I don't care. I don't care who it
yeah.
comes from. Let's just get it done, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love Solomon, man, but I,
Yeah,
I don't have any rookies on my list because I don't think it's fair to put so
yeah.
much expectation on them so far. And I believe Coleman can be a big time contributor, Bishop as well as a rookie, even Carter Davis, but those guys are wild cards, in my opinion.
Hmm.
You expect them to play well as rookies, but I take it easy with the expectations on them. So number one of the list, who's the guy that can change the Bills season if he elevates his level of play in 2024? Man.
If we can get Chase Claypool from his first and second year with Ben Roethlisberger, if we can get that kind of play from him, this offense will take off. He has the tools physically. I mean, he is gifted. He's probably the most talented receiver on that roster, honestly. If he can bring that to the forefront, if he can be that guy, he could be a legit number one in this league. Do I think that the Bills offense need technically that true number one alpha guy? No, I don't. But it helps, right?
Mm,
And Claypool's young. I think he's still 24, 25.
mm,
So if he can find that level of commitment, because the talent's there, it's up here in his mind, right?
yeah.
He's got to be focused and all in on football, and his teammates there in Buffalo. If he can do that, holy cow! Because the offense will Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Cooks,
You're Shakir.
Kincaid, Knox. Like it would be insane, and I don't think any defense in the league could stop him if Claypool can be that guy. If he's not, the offense will still be fine. I think they'll still move the ball, they'll still get points, but he could take it to a whole another level if he can be that guy.
Yeah, man, he's a great X factor to have on this team, right? Because I have a lot of people as well writing him off, just like I told about Von Miller and people like, oh, he sucks, he's done, and things like that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people writing Claypool off already, but man, when talking about Claypool, we're not talking about a guy that we saw in college, a rookie. We're not talking about a guy that had a major injury and won't ever be the same anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We're talking about a guy that put up the NFL tape already being dominant, right? A guy that boldly stated that some time ago, oh, I'm a top three, I'm a top five wide receiver in the league. All right. But he was in a position to say this kind of crazy stuff because he was
Yeah.
producing, he was really playing it up to a high standard, right? So I don't get why people can't really get excited about him because it's not about the news about him making a crazy catch without pads and in mini camps. It's all about what people in McDermott and people who have been around him are saying so far and about his commitment, about how he's willing to play special
It's
teams, how
huge.
he's willing
Yeah.
to earn his spot on this team, right? So if he's that committed and doing all the right things, he hasn't had any major injuries. He all it just like you said, it was all mental. So it's totally fair to expect him to surprise the all the NFL and maybe make a comeback, right? He will get some opportunities to do so. So it's fair
Yeah.
to get excited about that. My number one isn't that um, bold. Maybe I don't know. It isn't that I wouldn't go that far, right? It's another guy that has been good, but if he can become awesome, really, he will be the key for this offense, right? So it's Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, right? He's been very good. He as a rookie. I think people don't talk more about him just because the guy from Detroit, he had all the opportunities since the beginning and could put up even a even better, more impressive,
Yeah.
statistically wise, more impressive rookie season, right? But Kincaid had a historic rookie season, so it's difficult to expect more from him, right? But man, if Kincaid can really be that focal point that people really need to pay attention in the middle of the field and to cover, otherwise him and Josh Allen will make them pay. Man, it opens up so much of this offense because we know Josh has no trouble. In fact, he does most of his damage throwing outside the numbers, right? So he loves to do that. He is extremely aggressive and he has the wide receivers to do damage there. I trust
Mm-hmm.
Khalil here. I trust Curtis Samuel. I'm I'm excited to see Keon Coleman. I'm excited to see Claypool getting opportunity. Even MVS, that's a guy that can go deep and produce. He's proven there, right? So he has some nice pieces. If Kincaid can be this guy in the middle of the field all the time and establish himself as a top notch, top five, maybe top three tight end in the league, mini Kelsey, right? This kind of piece, man. That's the key for this offense to be a really difficult offense to defend. Maybe even more difficult than the best offenses that we saw in the recent years with Dable, maybe when we looked very explosive, right?
Yeah.
Before that 13 seconds game, we had the perfect game against the Patriots and all. But if we get back in time, that offense, they struggle to run the ball against light boxes sometimes. They had two safeties high, an invitation to run the ball, and they still couldn't run the ball consistently. This new offense, this probably will be able to run the ball again, just like last season. And then if you have this passing attack led by Kincaid, it's a game-changing situation, in my opinion. That's why I have him as the most important guy to step up in 2024 and help the Bills.
Yeah, you brought up Sam Laporta,
Yeah.
tight end from Detroit, and I kind of laughed because I just wrote it not too long ago, and I was just trying to find it to pull up the exact numbers, but I can't find it now. So what I did was I looked at Laporta's numbers, and he played, I believe it was 83% of his team's offensive snaps.
Mm-hmm.
86 receptions, 10 touchdowns, I think it was 900 something yards. Kincaid played about 60% of the Bills snaps. So if you take what he accomplished in that 60% and you project that over the same number of snaps that Laporta played, Kincaid finishes with over 100 receptions. He finishes almost with 1,000 yards. To me, it's kind of unfair to Kincaid that he gets overlooked because of the overall numbers. And I get it. People love stats. It's what they look at. But stats can be misleading too. You really have to take a step back and look at all of the numbers as a whole. And be like, okay, what did he accomplish in this amount of time compared to somebody else? And Kincaid, he can be the next Travis Kelce. Laporta can too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying what Laporta did whatsoever. He's a fantastic tight end. But Kincaid can be that guy. So I'm with you. The only reason why I didn't put him on the list is because I just expect this to happen, right? Like,
Yeah.
my list, it was kind of more along the lines of guys who haven't necessarily shown us much yet. So with Kincaid, the passing game with the Bills is going to go through him and Shakir, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you're going to get a lot of those two guys between the 20s. And then once you get down to the end zone, you're probably going to get a little bit more of Dawson Knox, a little bit more of Keon Coleman because of his 50-50 catch, contested catch, whatever you want to refer to it as. And speaking of Coleman, too, if you go back and look at Gabe Davis's rookie year, and I believe he had 9 touchdown catches his rookie season, and he did it on 35 receptions. That's kind of what I'm expecting to see from Coleman. Maybe a few more receptions than that. But I do expect him to be a huge red zone threat. And a lot of that is going to be because of Kincaid opening things up, and teams are going to have to focus on him and leaving Coleman one-on-one on some of those fade routes. I guarantee there's going to be a ton of fade routes going in the end zone to Coleman in 2024.
Yeah, man, 100%. And then with Laporta, just like you said, if he's a Bill, and he would start behind Dawson Knox because it's obvious Dawson Knox has been a good tight end for the Bills, right? And then he wouldn't get as many opportunities he got as a Lion. So I not taking anything away from him, but yeah, Kincaid is that kind of guy, and yeah, I went more safer route with my picks, right? Right, Ronnie. Bills Mafia, thank you so much for joining us today. Hit that like button, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel. I really appreciate your support. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining me today. Great talk, man. Could go on. Well, next time I will build a top 100 list so we can talk all day long about it, right?
There you go. Let's do it.
Fun talk, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
See you around and go Bills.